Hello everyone, my name is Joel Mannix. I'm the head of dental at Christie Co. Today we have the privilege of being joined by Jason Wong, Chief Dental Officer, England. Jason has made significant contributions to dentistry and oral health, earning an MBE for his outstanding services. As Chief Dental Officer, he leads the dental profession in England, working tirelessly to improve oral health outcomes. Great to have you with us, Jason. Since we last spoke over a year ago for our Business Outlook 2024 report, when you sat down with Paul Graham, you've moved from an interim position to Chief Dental Officer. Congratulations, firstly, and how's everything been since then?
I think pretty busy is the way I would describe it. We have been busy trying to work on the next set of reforms for dentistry. It's now acknowledged that certainly NHS dentistry requires reform. Meanwhile, making sure that patient care is at the centre of everything that we do. There's a lot of things happening both on the world stage as well, the World Health Organization, which we're feeding into in terms of what oral health has a part to play in terms of non-communicable diseases. And also, I think in England, it is a case about making sure that we have the workforce to deliver the care that patient needs. And obviously that is ongoing and has been since I took over the post around about 9 months ago.
How has the sector fared over the past year? I mean, what are you seeing as the key developments and changes?
There's been continued recovery. The aim, and I suppose the target that was set was to try and get back at least to pre-pandemic levels. I don't think we're quite there as we stand with NHS dentistry at the moment. So obviously there's a significant amount of work that's ongoing to see how that can be achieved. Last year, round about sort of this time of year, the previous administration had launched a dental recovery plan. Within it, there were some short-term boost to the sector, as well as some long-term workings that is aiming at improving how oral health and the recruitment and retention of teams. So we've been working through that, and then of course with the change of administration, we've been working with the priorities of the new government and the manifesto pledges that the new government has made as well.
Just on recruitment, actually, do you expect recruitment and funding challenges to remain in the NHS dental sector long term?
I'm hoping it doesn't. I mean, we're still at the stage now where there are sort of two separate narratives going on about recruitment in particular. There is one which was picked up by a lot of people that suggests that we actually have enough dentists in the country, but that they don't want to do NHS treatment, and therefore that is there's no need for more dentists on top of what we have currently. But if you look at the figures and you compare us with other comparators in Europe, and certainly the number of dentists per capita is we're at one of the lowest within Europe. So I think that's something to bear in mind. There was also a workforce survey carried out by the General Dental Council December 23 as well as December 24, and the figures in December 23 indicated that out of the 25,000 dentists that responded to their survey, only 15 were looking for work. With 0.07% of the workforce looking for work, I think we can conclude we've got full employment. The second issue is recruitment's not all just about dentists. It's about a whole dental team that is necessary, and we are really keen on trying to explore how far we can take the skill mix and how teams can work together better. And that's not just because of availability of workforce, although it's a positive. I actually think that it is really good for a dentist to work in a multidisciplinary way, so that they can concentrate on certain things that's perhaps on the more complex, leaving other parts of it for parts of the team. And in dentistry as a whole, not just NHS dentistry, we've not been good at this. If you look at other sectors, and I always say, compare with sort of eye health, you walk into the place and someone does certain checks with your eyes that is not a qualified optician. They also go through different parts of the diagnostic phase, and then the one part that the optician is licensed to do. They do the eye test and then you come back. Here in dentistry, we seem to still believe that the dentist needs to be sat patient side for the entire time. It almost seems to be something we really don't want to move away from. And currently, we are pretty sure that dentists sort of carry out about 95% of the work. And I think it would be of real benefit if we can increase that. And alongside the fact that we've got low dentist numbers, actually, we do have one of the most professionalized dental workforce in the whole world. We have dental nurses that are registered, they're all regulated, they've continued professional training. So I think actually it's a real opportunity, which I think that both the NHS and the private sector probably need to think about how that's utilised as we progress.
I suppose, is there, I guess, a roadmap for increasing the number of, I suppose, to your point, not even just dentists, but sort of all staff, especially in the NHS dentistry world?
So the NHS, the year previous, had published its NHS long-term workforce plan. And on there was a commitment for 40% increase in homegrown undergraduate dentists, as well as a 40% increase in dental therapists. So that, to a certain extent, was addressing that aspect. I also think that the biggest registered group, dental nurses, could be utilised to provide a lot more than they do right now, rather than just chairside, actually having the ability to give preventative advice, apply fluoride varnish, take radiographs. So there's quite a bit that bigger, really big workforce could be utilised to do that. And also, we shouldn't forget that the smallest registered group, the clinical dental technicians, again, a workforce that can be patient-facing, that can have direct access, and the ability to carry out removable prosthesis, so dentures of one sort or another, for the population, and really valuable because, especially with the aging population that we've got, as in something that I think that we can really utilise. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and the roadmap probably is that, as well as increasing numbers. One of the more controversial parts of the recovery plan was the idea of having provisional registrations and use of international dentists. And we've always relied on the international workforce. And there's been geopolitical issues like Brexit, as well as generally how the UK is attractive for other nations to professionals to come here. So that whilst the quality is kept, but actually made less onerous in terms of the bottleneck that's caused by an overseas exam. So those are things that actually my office is working with government to try and increase. But I think that's probably the roadmap. I think what we need to then consider is how we fulfil the vacancies. And the most recent survey carried out by NHS England of all its contracts suggested that there was almost 3,000 whole-time equivalent vacancies within the system, and it put it down to 2,700 being NHS vacancies, but actually 300 private vacancies. Actually, the biggest issue with workforce for us is the urban-rural breakdown. So you were asking about recovery. Actually, London is currently carrying out more units of dental activity than it's ever done. So in effect, it has recovered. If you go more to the countryside, the Cornwall, the Devon, Norfolk, Suffolk, Lincolnshire, Cumbria, the recovery has not been as marked in those particular areas. There are multiple reasons why that is. Some of it is global. That if rurality is a barrier to young professionals wanting to move into those areas. But some of it is specific to dentistry, which is actually if you're a young graduate or recent graduate and you want to develop, these areas don't have big conurbations where you've got specialist units. So you take on the risk of both not having the opportunities to develop yourself, as well as not having the specialist services to refer to. And therefore you've got this sort of concentration of the city conurbations being where the recovery is most.
Just following on from that, what sort of words of hope can you offer those that are struggling in the sector?
I mean, I hope that the the reforms that are being worked on right now, we will see some signs of that. There is a commitment to quite a big set of reforms for the NHS contract that's coming along. I think there has been a recovery. We're not back to where we'd like to be, but the trajectory has been improving. So hopefully that does give people hope. It is quite high in the priorities and agenda. So whereas I think if you go back certainly a few years, and certainly pre-pandemic, that was probably the main challenge. Was it a big enough priority for everyone? I don't think that's in question anymore. So that must give us hope, I would think.
Technology is obviously on the rapid increase. I mean, how do you see digital dentistry and technology changing the patient experience in dentistry?
I think it's a real plus in terms of the patient experience. In particular, we've got digital dentistry. Of course, we've got the manufacture of restorations that can be done quickly. We've got impression taking that can be done without the traditional impression material, which patients really don't particularly like, and you can see why they would prefer a camera doing that bit of work. So from that perspective, I think that's positive. There's the other part, which is the connection with the practice as well. I see practices using AI, and I see the ability of people to contact a practice outside of working hours in a multitude of ways now that they didn't previously used to, even including automatic booking of appointments, without needing to speak to someone and find the time. So all that I think is going to improve the patient experience. Hopefully it will speed things up, make things more effective and efficient. From the dentist perspective, I think, there's a lot, and we're doing some work in trying to make the whole record keeping process not as onerous as it is right now. Sure. I think it's gone out of balance, and there's a lot of technology out there at the moment that is making that record keeping much easier. Either traditional methods of transcribing or using AI to improve notes, and I think that is to be welcomed. The big area is the diagnostic. We still rely actually heavily, although with magnification, eyes and hands, and again something that we've been quite slow, I think, as a sector to pick up, which is implementing sort of technology in around that. So having things that can read the radiographs that we have and the pictures that we have to give us more feedback.
What changes have you seen in the NHS in the past few years? And do you see the NHS being able to keep up with tech in the same way that the private sector is sort of accelerating?
Yeah, the NHS has always had a very slow path to picking up technology. We had a conference about a week and a half, and one of the speakers said it took on average 17 years from innovation research to get to the front line in the NHS. There will be issues with it, although the NHS is placing quite a bit of its technological advancement on the NHS app. And if there's some way of linking in the NHS app and the NHS information system with practice software information system, I think that could be a big move. And certainly, the ability to deliver advice, information, giving more power in the hands of, or the phones of patients is a good thing. And that goes further than just the NHS. But in terms of the technological advancement, there are some of these technological advancement that actually makes the provision of restorations actually cheaper to produce. So it is an area that certainly I think the NHS would be keen to look at. So all in all, I mean, we've actually been looking at in this area, and we've been discussing actually with regulators, and overall, although there's a few caveats, we think it's a really positive move and has real benefits to bring to the whole profession.
In 2024, 82% of our practice sales actually went to independent owners. How do you see this impacting dentistry and I suppose the NHS?
That was quite a surprising figure, and it was something that I think I chatted to Paul about last year in terms of where they were going, because the previous set of figures showed the practice ownership really dropping very significantly. The one set of definite figures that I saw were kind of between 2007 to 2017, and on the performance list, the number of provider perform, which is how the NHS distinguished between someone that has a stake in the practice, had dropped from sort of essentially around about 40% to below 10%, and the trajectory was going down much further. The fact that there was enthusiasm for people within the profession to take it on, I think it is different. I think that, you know, there was a time, if you go back, that the idea of someone just setting up essentially and not worrying about the running of the place and just having it as part. I think those days are over.
Yeah.
I think the running of a practice is now you need quite a professional outfit in which to do that. And I think it's a really welcome stat in terms of having that. There are also, I think, an increase probably in multi-practice owners as well. And quite a few of those are not just corporate bodies, but actually dentists who've gone on to do that.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing that the sort of next sort of wave of empire builders, I guess, coming through, sort of small groups, if you like. They're really sort of taking their place in the market at the moment. So from our perspective, it's great to see. Looking at the year ahead, Jason,
Yeah.
What are your expectations for UK dentistry in 2025?
The perspective of the NHS, I think a lot hinges on the set of reforms and how the NHS brings that on, both in terms of the, I suppose, 25-26, having some kind of reform that's going to help the market that can be put into place quickly. And then 26 onwards, or the end of 25-26, you would hope that we will have a good picture of how the entirety, and perhaps reforms that we've not seen in dentistry probably since, you know, almost 20 years, to come about how NHS dentistry will be reconfigured. In terms of private dentistry, there is a lot going on about the current sort of cost of living and how that might impact on that, especially the elective part of the market. But it is an area that seems to have been thriving, and the majority of private practices probably operate just healthcare out with the remuneration system that's within the NHS. There is some that rely quite a bit on the cosmetics, and I'm not into predicting how the cosmetic market will go, but so overall, whilst I think there's no question there's a definite need for reform, and we're not sort of blinded by sort of fake optimism, but actually, if we can see both those happening, the dentistry itself as a sector, I think, will do quite well. One of the things I keep saying, and sometimes people disagree with this, is actually the overall issue is not that dentistry has failed, it's access specifically to NHS dentistry that we've struggled with. And the other issue, which you'll be aware of, is if you look at the figures, yes, they're down from what they were, but it wasn't the wholesale complete change that everyone was talking about. I'm absolutely certain that coming from an area that's rural locality, I was aware of the problems pre-pandemic. The issue is that what we had was a recovery, but the recovery had kind of almost become the new normal, and we need to do something, first of all, to bring it back to the pre-pandemic levels. But actually, we can't stop there. We actually have to extend that in which to sustain the NHS in a sustainable footing, really.
What are your goals for the year as Chief Dental Officer?
Whilst the reform process is not directly under my responsibility, we put quite a lot of time and advice into helping the reform process. So I think seeing through some sort of reform program, both short and medium and long term, would be good. My own sort of areas, I do want to see some change in terms of the culture of the profession. I think that at the moment it sort of sits in a culture of fear about almost, about what could come next. And I'm doing all I can to try and change from a legislation perspective, which is talking to the regulators, as well as the clinical governance perspective, to try and improve that sphere. And we're also looking at the well-being side of things as well. I think that the mental health well-being is an issue in society as a whole, but there's been a particular issue in dentistry, and we're trying to do so. Improvement, I think, in that sphere is part of our aims and goals. I will be looking towards the Minamata COP6 this year, and one of the issues will be whether we retain amalgam use as part of the UK market, and that is something that I think will come along. We also are feeding into the WHO non-communicable disease strategy that's going to be presented to the UN. So how the UK kind of sit within global sort of achievements, and we've been also helping in terms of the recruitment and retention and the workforce strategy. Some of that will be decisions made by government that we then feed into to try and help. So if it becomes policy, confirmed policy of the new administration in terms of provisional registration, my role will be to support that in every way that we can, and indeed in other parts of the system as well, both to give advice but also to try and help with the implementation for England.
Thank you so much for your time today, Jason. It's been really great having you along and chatting with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I think it's been a valuable sharing of information.